Um, I also changed the time on the Zoom link.
On the event, yeah, but also
So-
the same hour there was Nick's thing for the creative recharge, you know?
Yeah, so I hope.
Same hour, same day. So yeah, they do the webinar for that. There was Nick's thing for the creative recharge.
Yeah, so I,
Yeah, I hear the webinar for that. Nick's
hold on, I'm getting
for
this
the creative
ping back here. There we go. Okay.
Yeah. You got it. Okay.
Yeah, because no one else is showing up. Geez. Like we could come back, but maybe we should just wait a minute and see what kind of happens here. Yeah, my apologies. I don't know why. It's always one thing I do wrong with this.
Yeah.
It's like always something that I'm doing wrong with it. Okay, just
Okay, meanwhile, me and Alex are gonna do the strategy call that we had on Friday, man. Okay, so
Yeah.
give me the
We just
logins
thought-
to Twitter so we can.
yeah, maybe
Yeah,
I
we'll
should just
talk.
sit in on your guys.
Maybe not while it's live streaming. I won't give my password
Oh
away.
fuck, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
good point.
yeah.
All right, man. Is Jamie not coming today?
Jamie? I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I should ask him when usually he's the first guy in the room too.
Yeah, you need an assistant, man. You need to send the reminders for these things.
Yeah.
And well, but Phil, I was talking to Phil like.
Here's one person.
Okay.
Ooh.
Oh, it was.
Oh, cool name. I like it.
Totally. Devin's
Ooh.
on.
Hi, Devon.
He's like, I'm not here. I'm partially here. He probably saw the email and is like, oh man. Hey.
What's
I
up,
just
man?
got, I'm a little late.
Did you see the email? The switch in time or?
I did just as I was hopping on. I just got back from the gym and I was like, "Ooh, okay, made it."
Nice. Nice. Okay, well, let's hope maybe other people. It's always been the same time too, so hopefully people just expect that it's that time. But
well, except last time you told Nick Trepka it was like an hour and a half later, so he came at the end of it.
Yeah.
Dude, you really need that. You clearly are a musician, so
I tried so hard not to be that. I was like, for this email, I was like, okay, I got everything.
No worries,
no worries. Edited through it, but it is well, it's one of those things where people have so many things to do.
No worries, man. You're on this side of the world. Okay, look, who gives a shit? Because of the people are gonna watch it in the video. And by the way, we're always 5 or 6, so I mean 4 guys. Can I introduce you to each other? So
yeah, and I'm sure sometimes it takes a while for people to jump on anyway. So let's just also I will share it into the musicians group too. So
okay,
yeah, so go for it.
I'm gonna start. Okay,
yeah, do it,
dude. Alex, these 2 guys you see are both great musicians, coaches that I know from the Domino group, of Nick Bottini. They're all fucking amazing. Neil, forgets the hours and the email reminders, but has built amazing stuff both in music education and in coaching. Devon is a fucking genius. He does pretty much everything. And I want to know more, but still we haven't spoken because we cannot schedule a call because he's too busy. And guys, because Neil said invite people. So I don't have many people here in Italy that are into coaching or into speaking English, really. So I thought, why don't I invite my best friend Alex Manzi, who's also a quite known coach, very successful coach, and Nick Bottini obviously knows him. Everybody knows him. He's also one of my greatest friends. I also do the social media for him. Who gives a shit? That I do social media. But Alex, to give a brief bio, because he's going to introduce us to the chapters of today, by the way, especially from his point of view, the experience of a coach that's been running a practice from a few years and has had many experiences. He knows many coaches. And, but Alex, he worked many years. First of all, he opened a blog many years ago. It became very successful. From that, he went to work as the social media producer for the BBC Radio 1 Extra. So he knows everyone in the music industry, like famous musicians, you name it. But I could name them, but you don't know them because they're British. So probably you don't know them anyway, like Stormzy and people like that. Then he worked for, he had this huge change transformation, and he went to work for a bit for Spotify. And then he got into coaching. He became a coach. He had this whole journey with a ton of obstacles. He overcame them all. He also has a really compelling personal life story of overcoming depression and getting basically all of his dreams. He's living in London with an amazing fiance. He has an amazing life, and he's been helping a shit ton of people changing their lives. Dude, I introduced you to Alex the Man Manzi.
We need like the crowd noise.
Oh, here
Thank
comes
you,
Buster.
man. Beautiful introduction. You only forgot one thing.
What did I forget?
You forgot the podcast. You didn't even mention the podcast. And
Okay,
you're always telling me that I forget about the podcast.
dude, there's a huge noise here from the neighbors. So, hi, Phil. I thought you were going to come. Phil, you just lost. I introduced to everyone my good friend Alex Manzi. By the way, I was telling you about him like a couple hours ago.
I know
You said
of
that-
Alex Manzi. I've internet stalked him.
Okay, so I don't.
Nice.
You wouldn't be the
you.
first, Phil. You wouldn't be the first.
You know,
But
when you
the
hear a
one
name
thing
so many
that
times.
clearly, the one thing Alex just pointed out that I didn't mention is that he's been for many years the successful host and creator founder of In the Moment with Alex Manzi, the podcast, which is in the top 10 of UK podcasts. It's been for a while. Used to be called The Dreamer's Disease. That's why we know each other also, because when I moved to London and I was searching for my dream there, he's one of the first people I contacted. We didn't know each other. We became friends right away. And at the beginning, I started helping him with the podcast. I used to do really bad videos for him. And then many years went by. Now I give the mic to you, Alex.
Thank you. I don't know what else to add. You've kind of you covered all bases there with everything, considering you remembered the podcast in the end. But yeah, no, good to be here, guys. I'll give you a little bit more context. So, yeah, coaching wise, I started coaching in 2018, part-time outside of my kind of full-time job. So I was working at One Extra at the time. I'd already been running my podcast for about a year. I was creating lots of content, putting it out online, and essentially, people were finding my content helpful, and I'd get lots of messages like, "Hey, like, I need help with this thing," or like, "This is what I'm going through." Like, and people were like asking me for help, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know. Hey, Kate, there's a nice face that I recognize. How's it going? And people just started kind of coming to me for help, and I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on here, and I hadn't even heard about coaching at this point. And then once I kind of heard and understood a bit more about coaching, I started looking into it, and obviously found like this bad boy through a few recommendations, the work of Steve Chandler, etc., etc. And I was like, okay, this life coaching thing seems quite fun. It seems like the kind of thing that I want to do in the world. Seems like the impact I want to have, because the podcast was always about trying to inspire people to make a positive change in their life. And the coaching just felt like an extension of like, oh, I can actually help people do that, like on a one-to-one level or in a group setting or in an intimate setting. So yeah, 2018 is when I started. I had a mentor at the time who was literally just offering me like advice and tips for free. But it wasn't until 2020 where I started to take it really seriously, which kind of we'll come back to that after, because I know we're going to talk about those specific chapters of the book. So 2020 lockdown forced my hand a little bit. I'd kind of quit my freelance. So I left my full-time job 2018 because I wanted to focus on coaching and podcast. Took the Spotify gig at the end of beginning of 2019, I think it was. Did that for 6 months. Then end of 2019, I was like, right, Spotify gig's done. I want to take the coaching more seriously. I want to do less freelance work. Then lockdown happened. We all know what happened in 2020. And it kind of forced my hand. And I was like, oh, all the social media work's dried up. Let me just start helping people then. And I've been running my business full time since then. and not really look back. And then every year it's been growing. You know, I've been very thankful and grateful that I've, you know, coached hundreds of people at this point. I've worked with some of the best coaches in the world, in my opinion, that are available to me. I've invested crazy amounts of money into my own growth. I think I'm up to about 60K in about 4 years. Working with some amazing coaches and courses and programs, meeting incredible people as well, people like Nick and the coaches that we're kind of become connected to. So yeah, that's it. That's more of a context and more of a bigger nutshell for you.
Very cool, man. Very cool, Alex. So there's a couple ways we could go about this. So would you want to dive into the chapter, or do you have anything like you want to, like any direction that you feel like you want to go?
Well, I've been told that you're the man about town, Neil, so I'm happy for you to kind of guide the conversation, and then I can input where I feel like there's something valuable to add.
Cool. Okay, cool. Let's do it like that. One thing we're mostly coaches in this group, but there's lots of people, I think we're pretty much all, well, not entirely, but there's coaching skills in this group. And I try to continually emphasize that the title that I think the book should really have is The Prosperous Person. Because I feel like it's this really multi-layered book. And with some small kind of changes of phrase, you could adapt these concepts to many different lifestyles or industries, viewpoints, mindsets. And actually, the second chapter that we're going to look at today, the sixth chapter, I feel like that really speaks to it in the sense of having part-time coaches or people who use coaching skills in other industries. So it really kind of keys in there. So just to kind of layer into our thinking today, it's just how do these stories relate to you, or how does this chapter relate to you? Then how does this story also relate to clients? Like, do you have stories about clients and how skills that they've adapted from conversations with you have then gone on to create a bit of a domino effect? It's kind of how I would look at it. So the way that we kind of go about this is that I'll kind of read some of the chapter and then key in on some areas that I think are potent, and we just kind of start unpacking. It always seems to just catch fire pretty fast. Like within a couple sentences, we're there. Yeah, you want to talk? You got something to say, Alex? Yeah.
Yeah, man. I just want to add, so I love what you said about the multi layers of the book. So it's funny because like I've got the book here and I've started reading it again a couple of weeks ago, and this is my fifth time reading it. So I try and read this book once a year because every time I read it, I get something new from it. Because first of all, in a different position in my life. Secondly, I'm a different coach, and thirdly, my business looks very different to the last time I read it. So I get different things from it. So there's layers to it in that way. And then something that an insight that I had, I think the last time I read it, or probably a couple of years ago actually now, was I was very much reading the book from the perspective of like, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that, and I need to do this, I need to do that. But actually, I started to see it's not about doing really, it's about being a prosperous coach, right? Coming from the place of prosperity, of service, of helping people, of and when I started to read it from that angle, I was like, oh shit, there's even more for me to get from this, because it's like it's not about, yeah, it's easy to read it, and especially the first time, and take the doing from it. But actually when you read it from the level of like, okay, who are you being? Like, how are you showing up? Like, who are you choosing to be in the world, and present yourself in the world, in the place that you're choosing to come from? There's a whole nother like depth of meaning to the book, which is insane. So also just wanted to throw that in there because that's been invaluable for me, and I'm about 15 chapters into to reading it this time, and I'm just like fuck, there's so much in here, like it's gold. So yeah, I just wanted to chuck that in the mix as well.
That is super powerful. That actually, to me, kind of tied. Maybe before we do the chapter, we can talk a little bit about some stories, if anybody has, about the previous chapter. Because for me, just to tie into what you're saying, Alex, Nick and I were talking about kind of black and white marketing and how you can kind of go all the way into the black. Gary Vee had basically said this thing which really hit Nick, was that there's kind of two main marketing styles, and you kind of have to go all the way into one or the other. And if you go all the way into the black, which is kind of Gary Vee's description, it's like manipulation, coercion, like getting the sale, funnels, all this kind of stuff that's going to direct someone to purchasing something from you. And the way that Nick said it is you kind of have to be dead inside to like really take this inauthentic route of just pounding the sale. Or as Gary Vee said, and that's kind of like a short-term results-driven kind of situation, front-loaded, lots of quantity. Whereas the white way of going about things, or the light way, or whatever you want to call it, is about relationship building, nurturing relationships, authenticity, letting the relationship develop, and ultimately the best possible situation coming, whether it's a no or a yes. It's a full-on no or yes. And that required a certain level of faith and a certain level of inner prosperity, like you're kind of saying, that in order to go all the way white, you have to be willing to plant all these seeds, and just plant the seeds and just go all the way. And that to me would be this kind of growing this inner certainty that you're already prosperous. Is that kind of dovetail with what you're?
Yeah, dude, because I had a story in my head of like, okay, when I make six figures as a coach, then I'm a prosperous coach, right? And I had this insight, like I said, a couple years ago, where I was like, oh, it's not about the amount of money that I earn as a coach. It's about where I'm coming from in my business. And I shared this with uh, my coach at the time, and another one of his clients who's now a really good friend of mine. So Sachin Sharma, who some of you may know, and Rajini Gear, who some of you may also know. And we had a WhatsApp group together, and I shared this with them at the time. And I was like, I already am a prosperous coach. Like, I'm already being a prosperous coach. And that was such a profound thing for me to see, like, oh, it's not about, okay, when I get to this point in my business or my career, now I can like call myself a prosperous coach. It was like, no, I am one because of the way that I'm operating and the way that I'm choosing to run my business. And the interesting part is, I love what you said, Neil, about the black and the white. I think there's so much for us to learn in the black as well as coaches, like later down the line, possibly, but I think there's also so much to learn in it. And I come from a background of marketing and events and social media and content and all of that. So I think I have a very unique position where I actually have a background in that stuff. And I've kind of operated in the white or the light or whatever you called it, or however it was light, wasn't it? So I can see the value in how the two things actually blend together. And like I was saying to you guys, my coaching business is really built on what some people would call marketing, right? In terms of like putting content out. But I wasn't putting content out to try and convert sales and create conversion funnels and all this stuff. It was to put content out that I believed in, and it resonated with people. So I think that, like I said, there's so much to learn in the black as well. And I think it's very easy, and I demonized it for a long time. I think it's very easy to demonize it and look at it in a bad way, but I think actually, what can I learn from it? Because again, you look at Gary Vee, like he's an advertising guy, he's a marketing guy. So he can say all of this stuff, but it's where he's coming from and the way that he's operating in the black is very different to the cold, hard, like, right, let's get the sale, let's get the thing. Like it is relationship based. So I think if there was like a Venn diagram, that I would say the modern day prosperous coach lives somewhere between the two, like in the middle. Especially in my Mick's giving me the fireworks thumbs up, love that. Especially in my world and where I see, we live in a digital age. So like we ultimately have infinite access to the world and everyone in it, pretty much 90% of the world, or whatever the ridiculous percentages and stats are. So yeah, like I think there's a lot we can learn in that side to bring over and operate from the prosperous coach kind of framework, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would a thing that I would love if you could do for me is kind of define what you would, if we were going to use this kind of semantic model, what would you consider to be the light or the white, and what would you consider to be like the dark or the black sides of marketing? Could you define those so we have, so we're all kind of clear on those ideas, especially considering that you have a background in marketing. So,
So I think so. Yeah, it's a good question, and I think so I was very blessed in working at the BBC, right? And this is probably not very, I mean, it's probably quite well known, but the BBC aren't really trying to sell anything. They haven't got a product. They don't need people to buy anything. They don't need, um, you know, I don't know, to sell things or to whatever, right? It's all in the UK, it's all licensed, it's tax money basically. So it's funded by the government through tax money essentially. So it's a very different, because I used to work in advertising before that, right? And advertising is all about, right, we need to get the message across because we need to sell the product and we need to this and we need to make sure this is right. And the BBC was just more like, let's make really good stuff, right? Let's make really good stuff and let's see who comes and finds it, right? And I worked in this the best corner of the BBC, which is BBC Radio 1 Extra, which is like the urban music world. So it was kind of like the naughty child of the BBC, right? We had so much more license to try things because a lot of the BBC is very like straight and, like everyone's very like, whatever. Whereas like at Radio 1 and 1 Extra, it was all like young kids, like into music, into hip hop, into like creative things, like all of this kind of stuff. So I say all of that to say what I learned from the BBC and my role there was like actually just focusing on making really good stuff with the intention of like, we want people to recognize us as a brand, but we haven't really got anything to sell you. We want to share with you the amazing stuff that we're up to. So for me, that's like the light in this scale that we're using. The other side of it is like, and I'm in a Twitter sphere at the minute of like it's like the creator uh economy on Twitter, and there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, like all about growth and yeah, I'm gonna get 100,000 followers and here's how I'm gonna do it and I'm gonna make posts that go viral and I'm gonna write so I can get X amount of impressions and then I'm gonna like get X amount of people onto my newsletter and then I'm gonna sell them my thing. And it's a very different approach. It's like the starting point is I want to sell you something, so I'm gonna create in a certain way to get you to buy the thing. Like the whole, I help X do Y through Z. So like I help, I don't know, stay home mums get clear on their purpose in life through coaching, that kind of like formula. And then it's like niching down and all that stuff, like it's very much targeted towards trying to sell as a starting point. And I think that, to me at least anyway, is the black. But I also think there's still gold in there, right? There's still gold in like getting clear on who you want to serve, getting clear on how you can help, getting clear on who's the community. Like if you're talking about community, who's the community of people you want to build? Like what's the mission that you want to stand for? Like who's the people that you want to, see rally around you, similar to what Nick's doing with his group, right? And with this Project Domino, like there's a clear purpose and a mission behind it. So I think there is still like a lot of good for us to learn from in the black. So I think like that's how I see it anyway. So yeah, that does that kind of answer the question?
Dude, that's mega inspiring. I can feel it in my body. Like, it's generating so much fantastic energy. It's fantastic. I thought that was so well filtered. It's fantastic. I feel like Philip and then Michaela, right? That's the yes. I was practicing today. Michele. Michele. But it's not, and there's no A, Michele. Okay.
Michele. Oh my gosh, that is just mind-blowing what you've just told me with these two marketing styles. Like you've just touched on something which I intuited, like I've intuited that for years, but you've just labeled it and I'm just like, fuck, it's such a mind blow. The white and the black. Exactly. I mean, what more is there to add? I'm mind blown because exactly like I always felt there was something really manipulative. It's that kind of Grant Cardone kind of energy, like buy this. And Alex, you just said so well, like it's starting from I want to sell you something, I want to make money, and reverse engineering it from the perspective of what can I sell you? And exactly, I help X do Y through Z. Exactly. Right, but it's also true that there is a lot of value. I'm just regurgitating what you guys are saying, but yeah, I think I had a question when I raised my hand, but then Alex, you answered it. So I was just gonna affirm that is really mind blowing, and thank you so much. That's such a great way of putting it. Thank you.
Michaela, right? This is
Yeah, I was waiting for you to try and say my name. Okay.
I'm like, oh,
I do.
it's gonna become a bitch.
Yeah.
You worry.
Next time, never mind. Oh wow, amazing. You know that we're never gonna read the chapter today, like all the other times. Like this is not really the book club of the Prosperous Coach, like every time. But this is super interesting. I mean, it's my ballpark. Basically, I think about these things all day, every day, which I don't think it's healthy, but still, because it's it's really the it's not, but often it shows up as a conflict, you know, in clients, in people, what can be coaches, can be entrepreneurs, can be social media managers, can be creators, right? This distinction, black, white, you can even say long-term branding versus marketing and sales, okay? Which now that the more years goes by, I realize it's not even black, white, there's a ton of colors in there, that it's a spectrum, right? You should do both, number one. But even, for example, the example you made, Phil, like of Grant Cardone, that's interesting because you would say he's completely black. He sell. And at the end of the day, what he does is not really that, because you can say he's completely, in a way, the way he talks, the way he does videos is really unique. And that, trust me, it requires years of work, even if you're a natural storyteller. And that's really the work for me to do at the beginning, because the thing is, okay, imagine, like, let's do the example of coaches that are starting, or maybe are starting social media, even if they have a business, right? So you want to do, hi, Ellen, you want to do ads, you want to sell, you want to do more marketing. One thing I hate, for example, is the bot messages. I don't want to see those anymore. Like, I'm not going to answer you, Anyway, what I'm saying is, if you do any of that without starting any organic reach, or even a small community at the beginning, I don't know what you're building, honestly. I mean, I need to see some of your vision, some of your mission, why you want to build that at the beginning. But many people want to start day one or day zero, a ton of content, and I'm selling. I don't give a crap, This is like the perfect example is the many musicians here in the room, musicians, coaches, but also musicians. So that's the perfect example of the musician's mindset, which is, I'm not going to post anything for 5 years. And then it's, hey, pre-save, hey, out now. Now you go to all the musicians on Instagram, look at their bio. It's either out now or pre-save. What does it tell you? Like, fuck you. Do you have a personality? That's why. Do you believe in anything? Do you have a soul? Because that's why I did the example of Grant Cardone, because you may like it or not, it's totally about the money. It's going to get your money no matter what. Definitely his mission is not to save the world. I don't think I'm saying anything that he would be against. But at the end of the day, he's unique. He's completely showing himself as he is, authentically, pure self-expression. And that takes even years of work. And I think that's something that a lot of people, going straight for the sell, completely skip over, being completely inauthentic, automated bots, no personality, and then you're not gonna be able to build a community or any organic reach. I don't know. Maybe I've gone too specific. Sorry, I'm gonna stop here.
No, that makes tons of sense. That's and Ellen, just to fill you in, we've got a special guest here today, Alex, Alex Manzi, and he's just kind of weighing in on some of what we're talking about with these chapters, but also kind of the conversation that we're in right now has a lot to do with the two kind of major sales tactics. One being what we kind of defined as like the light side of things, and one that we've defined more as the dark side of things. And the light side being more of something where you're producing content that's meaningful to you, and you see the value in it, and just connecting with people who would also see the value in the content. So it's more driven from what you see as a service coming from you personally, or your community. And then the black side of things, where you're creating formulas in order to target a specific set of people with a specific sales technique. And then you're kind of almost building backwards, where you have the product, but the sales techniques are more important to you than, say, the service you're trying to sell almost like peer selling, maybe you call it. But Alex, you wanted to weigh in on.
Yeah, so it's just something there that Mick was talking about. So it's funny because I had a conversation earlier today with a guy, one of my Twitter buddies, a guy called Alan Dragu, and he's like a real keen sort of email marketer, and he's like a COO of a marketing agency that he runs with a pal, like quite successful agency by the sounds of it. He said he got like 250 clients. And he was saying to me, he goes, hey man, he's like from the States. So he's like, hey man, what's your business model? And I was like, I do coaching, like one-to-one coaching. He was like, okay. And he was like, asking me all these questions. And a question he asked me was like, what if I come to you and I want help with something, what do you help me get in 90 days? And I was like, okay, like I can see that kind of linear marketing journey of like, I'll help you get this in 90 days, right? And I said to him, I don't know. And his face just like was like, huh? And I was like, I don't know, because I need to know what you want to know how I can help you, right? I can't help you if I don't know what you want. And I think that again, like just to highlight, like that's the two sides. There's like here's what I can do for you, and here's what I can get for you in 90 days. And I've got the product, I'm going to sell it to you, versus tell me about you and I'll figure out how I can help you, right? There's something valuable that I can help with, but until I know about you and what you want and your life and what's getting in the way, I don't really know how I can help you. And I was saying this to one of my clients earlier today, like I like to play the I don't know game. I don't know what you want. I don't know how I can help you. I don't know what's getting in your way. I don't know if this is going to be a good fit for you. I don't know if you can afford the coaching. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff I don't know.
I'm really sorry, but could I butt in with a question there, Alex?
Yeah, go for it.
Because the whole thing of what you're saying is like the anti-theory of that would be like, well, then if you're going to try and serve everyone, you're going to end up spreading yourself thin. So that's why it's the whole of like, I will help you do this. And it's like niching down. It's being really precise on that's your problem. I will fix that problem. Whereas if you saying, okay, I'm Alex Manzi, I will help you with anything, then you're kind of just who's going to approach me, and then whatever problem. Okay, he's got this problem. I've got to build this to fix that problem. Or he's got this problem. I'm going to build this to fix that problem. And you're going to spread yourself thin, and then end up having to build something different for every separate person.
I don't know. I'm just joking with that. So no, I hear you. And so I think this is the way I see it, is like the work that I do is bespoke to the individual with anyone that I work with. So, I think Neil, you were saying before about, the light side of marketing or the light side of the business is it's based in relationships, right? So it's like I need to have a relationship with someone in order to know how I can help them, because I know I can help them, 100%, because there's certain truths and certain principles and certain practices, for want of a better word, that I know help everyone and anyone, because I've seen it across the board over 6 years of coaching people and coaching hundreds of people. And I don't know what it is that I can do for you until we've spent some time together and we've uncovered that. Like, I could have a conversation, like some of the clients I've worked with and currently and in the past, like some have been coaches, some have been doctors, like I've worked with stay-at-home mums, I've worked with employees of companies, I've worked with, athletes, I've worked with artists, I've worked, like, it's such a broad range. Like, I can't say like I do this to help you with that, because I need to know about you first. And until I know about you and what's getting in your way, I don't know how I can help you. So yeah, there is like a spread too thin thing in there potentially. And actually, if you just only focus on the person that's in front of you, you're never going to be spread too thin.
Devin.
This conversation's gold. I want to highlight and underline that last thing. If you just focus on the person in front of you, you're never going to be spread thin. Like that. Absolute gold. I wanted to share one phrase. It's kind of like just a personal little mantra. I don't even know entirely where it came from, but it's been really liberating in the way that I serve and coach and also make music. And I think it helps with this distinction of like the light side and the dark side. One seems to be more like it's coming from a give. Like if you're already prosperous, it's like, hey, I don't know, maybe I can help. I'm gonna give. I'll be curious. I'm not gonna act like I know you or like I know what's best for you until I actually get curious. And there's a humility in that. And there's also like a coming from a give. And then the other is like it's I see the formulaic, and I don't think it's the mechanism. I don't think it's the internet that's the problem. I don't think it's a funnel or like a certain strategy. It's not the digital aspect, it's the come from, leading back to the mantra that I wanted to share with everyone. It's high intention, no attachment. And for me, that's like, I love that when you said, Alex, when you said that you're at the BBC, it's like the role is to make something cool. The role is to make art worth sharing, or the role is to make something useful. And I think when I'm coming from that, there's rather than, and when I get onto a call too, it's like, hey, let's see what we can create here. Maybe let's see how useful we can be. Let's see what the upper limit of that is. Rather than like the goal is just to sell you something. Maybe that'll happen. Maybe it'll be so useful that the byproduct will be a client or a sale. But like that's not the intention. The intention is from a give. And the attachment is just like, we'll see. I don't know.
I just want to jump in here just 1 second. So I find this I just want to unpack a couple things here because I think maybe it would be useful. So I'd love to know what people's idea of this, like, coming from who you're being. Like, so if you were coming from, say, this light side, how would you describe that? If you were just thinking about people who are listening to this back and they're asking that question of themselves, I'd love to know everybody's ideas of this. Maybe Devin, if you want to start, just because you're kind of already speaking on it, if you could give me an idea of what you think some of the keywords on either side would be for you. Is that something possible?
Sure. The first few things that came to mind were caring, curious, generous, compassionate.
And that
It's
would be the
just
light, that would be the light side of it, kind of thing.
yeah, I definitely spend more time thinking about those words.
Okay, yeah.
And I fully recognize that is not all that is out there. And that when I first got into the online space, I was trained up in a very different approach and emphasis. And the other is, like, I think it's just it's like relentlessly outcome focused, and there's a push, there's a force to it. And it's like very attached and hustly.
I like that. I think you really keyed in on an energy there too. Mick, I'm going with Mick for right now. But what do you have? What do you think? What's just because you got your hand up too? I know you probably have something else to say, but also because you're a marketing guy yourself. So
I think, yeah, am I? I don't know. Anyway, no, I never saw myself as a marketer, but this is actually what I wanted to say. So thanks for making the question. I think I wanted to say something really in the ballpark, because we made many distinctions here, right? Now, again, a spoiler alert, I'm not a coach. So when I say these coaching words, I don't really know what I'm saying. Maybe I'm using them just as words. So many coaches in the room, by the way, guys. I've been coached by Ellen in the afternoon. She was fucking amazing. But also, Kate is going to coach me tomorrow. So everybody's coaching me. Thank you. Really grateful. I forgot what I was saying. No, what I was saying is we made many distinctions. So we said straight for the sell or building something. It's dark and light, or black and white, whatever you want to say. You also made a decision, you know, coming from the Gary V framework, give, or jab, right hook. So give against take, give against sell, or, you know, just the close or the sell against giving value, putting for years value out there. So you build your brand, you build the community, like Gary V did, really. And I know they experienced very well. I think Alex knows that too, because he basically built his podcast for what, 1 year, 2 years, putting content out, great content out as a hobby, and then it became something. And I did the same when I started my blog, that then became one of the most read news websites in Italy. It's exactly 2 years. I put out content pretty much for free with some freelance gigs, and it started from, you know, a demonstration of workers in real life. So that's pretty much the journey. That's also how Gary V did it. At the end of the day, if you go back to the Prosperous Coach, which I read less than any of you in this room, but, you know, the decision we were making exactly at the beginning of this call was, again, being against doing. I think that's where we can point to, you know, because it's really, that's why I was also talking about Grant Cardone, because I think in what it's not really going for the sale, for the sales, whatever that is, the word in English, or going for building a community. It's not really about that. It's not that easy. You know, it's really about, again, who you are being when you do the content or when you do the marketing campaign or when you do the sale. Why not? It's really the intention, where you're coming from in doing any of these things. And obviously, it's easier to spot if instead of being, you just want to do a bunch of stuff. I mean, 9 out of 10, you're probably going for the outcome, right? Like you were saying, Devon, like you probably want a bunch of clients. Maybe you want to fill a bunch of events. Maybe you want to sell a bunch of products. Maybe you want to sell the premium and this and then the freebie and all these bots, automated, you know, messages that you get 5 emails. Dude, come on, I'm going to unsubscribe, you know, pre-sale and out now. And obviously the other way, it's always going to be more valuable, but it's going to take longer. I don't even think it's that easy. It doesn't have to take long. Maybe more often than not, it takes long. But why does it have to be that way? It's really about, it's a different mind. It's a different approach, I think. And by the way, what also Alex was saying, I think it's really true. It doesn't have to be one or the other. I mean, really, it would be nice if you do both, if you have enough budget or time or whatever, a team in place. Because also going, for example, something like someone like me, I've done always starting from really putting a ton of value out there, even for free for years. And it's always proven successful, okay? You find your community. And in very different platforms, I mean, from Facebook 2010 to TikTok 2020. I did exactly those 2 years. So video and words. And then going really for something more sales oriented, more marketing oriented, more whatever, it's been very interesting. You know, you're really gonna learn a ton because it makes you humble. You know, it forces you to make choices and decisions. And if you can do both, if you have both perspective, man, that's so powerful. So why wouldn't you?
Wow, this is kind of, it's a very amazing conversation here. I want to try to graft a little bit of this to my own process outside of coaching too. Like you guys know, I run this Moonlight Jazz society. So we do these jazz gigs, and my partner and I kind of instinctively blended these two things together without realizing it. Like we really kind of did the XYZ formula in the sense of being like, we're looking for this demographic of people, we're going to give them this kind of thing, and it's going to create this type of outcome. So there was a certain formulaic process to it. Like we niched down and had our demographic and everything like that. But the intention behind it has always been this giving, like this desire to give to the artists, to give to the venues, to give to the people. So it was, I'm just kind of recognizing in this moment that blending of the two. And what's been interesting during that process has been some of the blowback that we've gotten from people thinking that we were doing it for like the black marketing side of things, when we're really coming from the more kind of light side of things, like in our being, like in our intentions. But since we've been using formulas in the sense of targeting certain people's, and also because people are more used to those other sales techniques, much like Alex, like you're saying, how the whole what am I going to get in 90 days, people have been pummeled with these funnels and these outcome based things, like you're saying, Devin, that they're almost like they're the behavioral model that they're used to in sales tactics, and what they look for, like maybe in advertising and things, are that outcome based, XYZ based. That's what they think of in terms of sales. And then, because the reason why I say this is also because people have come to me trying to understand what I do as a coach, and I've had to kind of give the same explanation a bit as Alex has said, in the sense of being like, well, it really depends on you. And they're like, well, but what could you give me? And I'm like, well, we have to get into a space where you can tell me what you need. And they're like, well, I'm not going to tell you what I need until you told me what you can do for me. And I'm like, well, that's not necessarily how this works. So we have to get into it. Like, well, how would you come for a beer with me and we'll just chat about what you do? And I'm like, that's also not how this works. We have to get into a space like that's about what we're going to do. Well, what is it that you're going to do? So it creates this kind of interesting feedback loop. So I could see how the XYZ marketing might somehow alleviate some of those elements. So I just want to kind of I just wanted to layer in some of these things that I'm noticing. Ellen.
Hi, sorry, first of all, because I see that I understand that I was late, but in my registration I thought it said 8:30. So
It was
yeah.
me. It was my
Okay,
fault.
okay.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
So sorry I missed the beginning. I had an experience this weekend about what Nick always speak about, being in service combined with being a musician. And I could see how those two, as well as you were talking about, Neil, that it overlapped. I suddenly saw that how I approach as a coach is the same. I'm coming from the same place as when playing with other people. And playing with other people when I am there for them. I'm coming from a state of being in service towards the people that I'm playing with, rather than my ego going, I know what I want, I know how to do this, I'm going to show the others how it's done, kind of stuff. And the feeling that comes with it, when you come from this place of being in service, that's a light, very light feeling. And it's nourishing both me and, I believe, the musicians around me at the same time. So you have a dance. It's not me performing and the other musicians performing. It's us. We're making it bigger than just the sum of each individual. We're creating something together, just like in coaching, co-creating. And it made me think of Game of Thrones. Anyone seen the Game of Thrones? Yeah, okay. Arya Stark is at some point trying to become no one.
Oh, okay.
And I saw that was actually what I was doing because I had this wonderful experience of being supporting musically my favorite musician of all times this weekend.
Whoa.
The person that has changed my life so dramatically. And I have been like, ooh, around him. Yeah, some of you know. And what I saw was that when I don't know what happened, but suddenly I was detached from that. And all that was left was, I want to be in service. I put my ego just disappeared. I was just someone, no one, being in service, being supportive the way I could. And that was definitely coming from a lot of love, but it was unconditional love now, not my obsession, not my personal experience. And that's, I believe, what can create magic. Oh, think about a world where every musician can put their ego aside to create something that's us. That's the same with coaching. And think about how that will feel. You know, I don't feel like when I'm going to play and it's, oh, I'm going to show them, or yeah, go get them, stuff like that. I don't feel nourished the same time. I can feel hyped, I can feel ready, a lot of things, but I don't feel nourished. I don't feel the love. And to me, that's a world of difference between light and dark. So.
That's amazing. Yeah, like it was amazing. That was so grounded. I feel so incredibly grounded from that. That's so fantastic.
I just had this thank you for that, Ellen. And it's cool hearing that you were able to show up and kind of like take him off the pedestal from our last conversation. I just had an insight when you shared that. And it feels like we're talking about the difference between love and lust, like in a different context, but it's like a very different approach. If you thing and you're like pickup artist tactics versus just like, I don't know, this is the time and the place. Let's get curious. Maybe there's something here. Maybe there's not. I don't know. But there's care, there's curiosity, and there's a patience to it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. There's, you know, there can be like this idea of that there's love there, but when you really do love, it's a bond, you know. There's a bond there. I think that's whereas lust, you might think that you're bonded together, but really you're seeking, like you're continually seeking this. Whereas like we were saying with love, it's so much more of a curiosity, I think, than oh, I need to get that thing, I need to get that thing. Go for it, Devin. Go for it.
I have one more piece, and I think this yeah, I was thinking about the set the bar high and clear it from this morning. And I saw this post that I wanted to share. It's from a copywriter and coach. Her name's Simone. And she had basically posted divest the coaching industry. And pointing out that there is this selling the dream of time, freedom, and money to anyone, that anyone can do it. And there is that element. But it's that formulaic aspect that turns it into kind of like a multi-level marketing structure instead of that other approach of that bespoke, curious, personalized. It's like not fast food. It's like, hey, what are you even into? Let's get some of your favorite ingredients. What are we cooking up? Like a totally different emphasis. And I thought that would be an interesting thing to put into the conversation here, which feels like it ties into the chapter of set the bar high and clear it, is that there is in the industry this weird multi-level marketing, sell everyone the dream of being an NBA player when the reality is a very small portion of people make it to that level. And yeah, I'll just seed that.
I think that's so. I want to hear what Alex has to say about this, but that is a underlying instinct and like literal like borderline terror for me is like these elements like coaching. Like to me, how I look at coaching or the space of coaching is along the same lines as, you know, therapy, psychologist, physiologist, priest, all these different kinds of different ways of talking about this very vulnerable inner process that connects to creation and yourself, who you are. It's very, very vulnerable and sensitive place that's really about who you are and who you're creating yourself as with somebody. And I have friends who are very suspicious of the coaching industry because of those formulaic things that you're talking about. And they have a full right to be suspicious about it. And that's also one of the reasons why I talk about this as being a prosperous person situation, and I'm adamant about other industries being involved because in my opinion, it's necessary for there to be a level of realism, like lived into this process of like what you actually want, what do industries actually do, what's the real schematic here. And so I'm really happy that you said that, Devin, because I do think that people try to sell that black marketing under this light coaching kind of thing. Or it gets confused up into this weird thing where it's just not really communicated effectively. I just one last thing is that I was talking to Nick Bettini about this, about if you're part of the Ultimate Coach Facebook group, like when I was invited into that group, it's terrifying. It's like a nightmare. It's the scariest. It's so freaking. It's like the way I explained it was like digging up an anthill, and it's just thousands of ants coming out, just spewing memes about changing your life and getting more time and it's creative changes, like every possible angle you could and like a like when you cut like in an archaeological dig, you can see layers of different kind of epochs, different all these different levels of thinking from like super basic generic kind of coaching lingo to like super high level people who really understand what they're talking about. And it's like a slice of that coaching mentality. And I was terrified. I was like, oh my God, what are we creating here? This could go the wrong place. And because there's so much power in this thing, because it's about people and their dreams and hopes and aspirations and livelihoods and lifestyles. This is cutting to the very core of being a human being. So I just wanted to say that I think that that's very honest, It's like any other industry. It's like if everyone wanted to be a plastic fork manufacturer, like every single person, we just have so many plastic forks. Everyone be trying to give each other these like. I try to distill it down into these kinds of things. That anyway, so that's my Alex. I love to hear what you have to.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. I love that. It's really true. Like this does really speak into that chapter, set the bar high and clear it, because what they're pointing at, I think it's by Rich, this chapter, isn't it? What he's pointing at is he calls it the lowest end of the skill spectrum, right? And that's the like, I'm gonna take you through this process and it's gonna spit out this result for you in the end. And actually, I think, what we're talking about here is very different. It's a very intimate, you know, experience. It's a deep transformative work. It's sharing a space. And Ellen, I love how you described it as like being in a band and co-creating. And Neil, how you spoke about it before about, co-creating a space with someone. And actually, what I've got is, hey, Emma. I've got an invitation for you all. Something we spoke about during the AJC school, Uncle James school, was about transforming the sort of that sort of broad view of coaching, of being this like, I'm gonna get you with my 90-day, like this sort of like marketing salesy thing, and actually bringing it back into the realms of being like a really prestigious career. The same way if someone told you they were a brain surgeon, you'd be like, holy shit, like that's fucking crazy. Or like if someone was like, I'm a, I don't know, a lawyer, like there's a level of prestigiousness to it. And the invitation that I want to extend to you all is to help bring back the prestigious nature of what it means to be a coach, because it is prestigious. It's as prestigious as being and I'm not putting it in the same category but like being a guru, or like being, like you said, I think you said priests before, Neil, like, okay, whether you agree with religion and stuff is a whole different aside, right? But there's still a prestigiousness around that, and for us as coaches, we have the um opportunity in front of us to bring back the level of prestigiousness to what it means to be a coach, because at the end of the day, that's really what it is. It's deep work. It's work that really transforms people. And I love, the last part of that chapter where it says, um you can be extraordinary if you're willing to put in the time, educate yourself, and turn pro. Use that high bar for success to your advantage. Be one of the committed coaches willing to clear the bar. And to me, being willing to clear the bar is being willing to give the people who come into contact with us as a coach give them a deep, powerful, amazing experience of what coaching really is. You know, not trying to sell them something, not trying to get them into some funnel, not trying to take them on I'm going to guarantee you this result on 90 days, but like, no, we're actually going to change your life, you know, and someone said something earlier about, you know, a work of art or something like that. And something came into my head was like, well, if every person's life is a work of art, I want to help them paint the best picture they can. And that to me is the true nature of coaching. And that's what I want to invite all of you into, especially if you're going down this path of coaching and I guess you're reading the book for a reason, right? But like bringing back that prestigiousness to what it means to be a coach, so that in 5, 10, 15, 20 years time, when you tell someone you're a coach, they're like, what? Oh my God, that's amazing. You know, that's really what this book for me is about.
I love that. I think that's so important considering what I was kind of saying about what I see sometimes in the coaching industry and really the low bar of entry. And like you're saying, the high bar of success. Because it's my kind of like, I have this conception too about life as a, since everybody, if we were all coaches in the whole world, and I say this for the people who might be listening to this or people who are engaged in other industries, one thing that I notice amongst many people is where a form of depression can come from is when they don't feel like what they're doing has value, you know, and they don't set a high bar. So if you had seen my email, it really talks about how what's the high bar in any one of your industries. And I even mean that down to people who are like working in a 7-Eleven or something like that. And I say that because, and maybe this is just idealistic on my part, but there's a certain revitalization that I would like to see amongst humans, which is that their labor on the earth counts and that whatever they're doing has merit and has value. And what is the high bar in their life? Because it seems to me that when people don't value whatever it is that they're doing with their life, they don't go that extra little bit to completely do whatever it is. And then all of those shortcomings, all of those not doing things as well as they could be done because the value isn't being seen, affects everybody else. It just creates a situation where we're limiting each other because we don't see the full extent of our personal power and the value of what we do with our time and who we are as people. Whether you're a janitor or whether you're just handing people chocolate bars at a 7-Eleven or something like that. So to me, it's like, or if you're a brain surgeon, there is a way to handle your life with care. And so that's in my opinion, that's what creates a prosperous person. As myself as a coach, that's something I'm digging into with people is where is the care, where is the value, where can you go all the way because you believe you have a faith that if you do that, it's going to bring you what you're looking for. And that prosperity, like you're saying, coming from a place of being, if regardless of whatever industry you're in, if you feel already like you are valuable and what you're doing is valuable, chances are you're going to go to the lengths needed to expose that value to the world. So I just want to add that in there because I absolutely agree that the coaching industry needs to kind of be salvaged from its many kind of degraded situations and then also I feel like that about everything. I see that in the music industry. I see that people like want to pre-baked everything, you know, to really dig deep on whatever it is that they're doing. There is a lack of faith that will bring them what they what they desire. So I just want to kind of add that in there, that the high bar of coaching, like you're saying, that prosperity, it goes everywhere. Nick.
You thought you could read the book, huh? No.
I know. I was like, I almost have it. Maybe I might share
No.
the page right now.
No, dude, every session of this book club, which is not a book club, let's be real, but we're raising the bar every time. Then I come in and I lower it just for you to raise it again. Should thank me, guys. No, but really, I really like the invitation you made, Alex. Like, or make it prestigious again, make coaching prestigious again. Sorry. I don't know where social media producers figuring that. You can tell me about that. Let's make that prestigious again back if it ever was. No, but it's interesting, man, because even the way you connected to that, Neil, is beautiful. It's very, I love that, because I think this is something we were even saying, some of us probably said it, I don't know, in one of the last session, if not the last session of Domino, right? Like when even Nick says often, these are not coaching skills, these are human skills. And I don't know, probably for my experiences in the last few years because I've been a journalist for many years in social issues, unemployment, and I was always, researching and writing about those things. I'm very aware of how crap the world is right now. I don't think, for many reasons, I'm not going to make the case here, and it's all over the world. In the US, you read American articles, they will say it's in the US, in Europe, they will say it's a Europe thing, in the UK, it's everywhere. And I think places like this to talk about these things, or books like this, to me, at least this has been my experience, they really reconnect me to a much healthier, more human place, way to connect with people. So when you tell me, let's raise the bar, or when you tell me, let's make this profession prestigious again, to me, that really goes back to the mission of this, or to the scope that it can have. So when someone asks you, what can you do for me in 90 days? Dude, I don't know if it's 90 days, but I can change your life. This is supposed to change life and maybe change the world. That's the whole thing. So I don't know. That's really feels really empowering me, feels very true to me, because otherwise, why would you do this? And the thing you were saying, Neil, about many people being unhappy, and then in their work, maybe it could be in anything, in their relationships. Loneliness, it's an epidemic now, even for young people. So when you say, I see it really as systemic, a lot, it's not working. Like, this may sound very stupid, okay? But recently, even, this is going to sound really, really stupid. I'm trying to lower the bar again, but recently, and I live in Italy, I don't live in a bad place. I don't know what to eat anymore because everything is unhealthy. I mean, you take the fruit, there's pesticides. You take the greens, there's pesticides. And the meat, there's full of hormones and this. And what the fuck do I eat? Okay, and I eat pretty healthy. This is just one example of, life is not that straightforward, easy anymore. And that's why many people are unhappy. And then, as you said, Neil, and I've seen that happening time and time again with people I know, with friends, with myself. When that happens, it's very easy because another thing is not going well. Living in big cities is not easy. Job markets aren't easy anymore. A lot of stuff is not easy. And in terms of content, if we want to go back to that, or even coaching, there's not a lot of inspiring leaders out there, guys. I'm even thinking about musicians. This is something I said before, I'm thinking, I'm always going back to David Bowie or Prince. Do we have those kind of artists, not even musicians, that are going to inspire me to make something different, to change the world? I don't see it. I see biopics and read books about the 60s and the 70s, about Bob Dylan and all those people. Well, they used to live together as people. No, it was a community. It wasn't like now, pre-sale out now all the time. But again, I'm making very different examples. This is to say, what you're doing, guys, what we're trying to do here is really fucking important. It's really important. It's the most important thing in the world. Boom, there you said it. Raise the bar again.
I'm really happy to hear you say that, because you know, it takes a certain, I feel it takes a certain level of courage on my part to stand up amongst a bunch of people and say, hey, I don't think this just has to do with this one industry. I don't think this just has to do with this one set of skills. Like I'm gonna just get on my little horn and I'm just gonna say it as loud and clear as I possibly can, because it is something that I see a lot, and it has so much to do with what we're talking about in this conversation. You know, so much of the world is outcome based, this maybe black market based thing, funnel based, whatever you want to call it, building out from the sale backwards. What can I do to manipulate the world? And then there's also the other side of it, the love side of it. And then, like as Alex was saying, like the balanced mind would see the benefits of both, and like how to really define them and then reconnect these different sides in a way that's actually prosperous, because it comes from an inner place. And there is so much outer to in our society that is kind of the unhealthy aspect of our world, on so many levels, to me, and it's from the politicians down, it's everywhere. It's from the bottom to the top, and then from the top to the bottom. It's just this this fear, you could call it, or this lack of personal value, or you know, reversed, the thinking is reversed. And so that's why I keep saying it, is for those reasons. So I thank you guys for being able to kind of like hear my words as something that's not against an industry, or not saying that industries don't have their specialties and their core that makes them what they are, but just that there is this, we are human beings, and sometimes I think we become divorced from that really core thing, is that all of our industries are human industries. All of our communications, all of our tactics, all of our strategies are human things. You know, so and I just hope for anyone listening that they can hear into our conversation and hear themselves, and set the bar high, because they go, oh, I wish, you're right, I'm not valuing myself, I'm not believing in myself, I'm leaving important things on the table. I could just do a little bit more, and if I did that, it would help someone else, just by doing a little bit more myself, just by buttoning it up just a little bit more. Anyways, Alex, let's go, and then Emma, and then Devin here.
Cool. Well, I actually want to throw it over to Emma, because we haven't heard from her, and I'm happy to share what I was going to share at the end. I've made a lot of content in my time, so I'm very good at summarizing things in a very valuable way in 60 seconds. So, Emma, go ahead.
That's very kind. I just wanted to come in and say I don't think we've ever had it better, actually. I would disagree. Like, we are living in a time where people don't die from cutting their fingers, where we don't die if we get infection, for the main part, right? We have never had it better. In our Western world, the levels of murder are down like we've never seen, right? I mean, yes, of course, the media would make you imagine that everybody's killing everybody else around the corner, but in general, they're really not. You know, so I think it's tempting, isn't it, to kind of go, oh, it's so awful out there. But actually, I'm not sure that helps in many ways. Because I think in many ways what we're looking at is the way I see raising the bar. And in many ways, I don't think it's even about prestigiousness of coaching as a profession, or, you know, I'm a Feldenkrais teacher, so I put myself more in an educational kind of frame. I mean, obviously, some of what I do is coaching, and I do coach other Feldenkrais teachers, but at the same time, I would say I'm more of a facilitator. But, you know, whatever. But and in many ways, I think that's part of it. We're raising the bar because we want to do what we do as well as we can and give real service that's meaningful. I don't do it to make my profession more prestigious. I know that if somebody comes to me and they are moved by what I do, that then of course one boat, we raise the waters or the boats rise. And that's part of my mission. It's certainly part of what I've been doing in the Feldenkrais world as well. Where I've been helping in the UK for people to help them become more successful faster, because actually it's always a problem when coaching or any of these kind of methods where people don't really know what they are, or they haven't had a good experience, and then of course it's hard to make a living. But I think in a way we have to get back to the essence of setting the bar high, and that's for the person who's in front of us, because we can only serve one person at a time. So I'd like to be, let's get back to something that's simple and manageable, and of course together, a bigger group, setting the bar high always encourages people. I mean, who was the bloke who wrote, who beat the 3-minute mile? Before that, Steve someone or other. I'm not a sporty person, but before that they didn't think it could be broken, and after that everybody broke it. Well, everybody, I didn't. And loads of sports people broke this thing that couldn't be broken because it had been broken. So I think personally I feel like we're raising the bar because we think that's important, because it gives service, and the overall effect, of course, may well be that people think coaching is more prestigious, but at the end they're going to come and work with Alex or Kate or Philip or Neil because of the word of mouth. But people are successful at what they do, they transform lives, word gets out. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say.
I think that's beautiful. That's the Prosperous Coach kind of in a nutshell too, that those are some very important precepts. And I also have to just acknowledge your energy, Emma. It's just so bright, just very light. This is fantastic. Don't say anything, and then you just come in here just blasting pure white light. So that's very, very nice to see that. We have, I feel also maybe that I should say that I'm not necessarily see the situation as depressive, and I agree with you, Emma, that we are in an amazing time. We are very fortunate, even just if having this conversation. This is ridiculous. Like 20 years ago, people would not expect this, and the level of, so I definitely am not in any way saying that I feel like there's a better time than this time, or that we aren't as a species doing very successful things. All I was trying to present was that sometimes when I observe people, is that they just feel like I just feel there could be more value. That might be an idealistic kind of mindset. And it's also not to demean where people are already, or demand that there needs to be some type of change, anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just simply was like, all these skills seem to work together to highlight the fact that if we do raise the bar, wow, do we get a lot out of it. But I 100% agree with you. Kate.
Hi, thank you. I was writing down just to go back to light and dark, or light and black. And I wrote down the words that we all shared on the light side. And so I have soul, bond, community, humility, being in service, share, care, love. And I'm looking at those words now, and I see that in everybody here. So I feel as though, to some extent, I know I'm doing it. I'm complicating what's simple. And I feel as though the black side it brings in some shoulds. I was like, well, I should do this, I should do that. But actually, if I'm true to myself and authentic, then I'm in that light place. And we are all magnets just the way we are, without having to package ourselves up in a different way. because we all have those things. We all love what we do. We all create. We all, you know, musicians and the coaches, and we're already in communities. We're already bearing our soul. So we just need to be ourselves. And we're already being everything that we need to be, including being prosperous musicians, prosperous coaches. So if everything's about keeping it simple, and that's what we create for our clients or in the experiences that we create, unpeeling the layers. And I think maybe with what we've been trying to do to market ourselves is we've been stacking on a few layers that actually kind of don't need them. Was my thinking. And could I just acknowledge Alex? It's so good to see you, Alex. And I remember, and it's probably about 18 months ago, listening to the laser session that you did with Sachin. And it's only 18 months ago, and see how you flourished. So if it's about be one of the committed coaches willing to raise the bar, Alex is that.
That's
Thank you,
fantastic.
Kate.
And yes, Alex, thank you so much for joining us today. You're a powerhouse energy, man. You can see it just emanating through the call here. It's just even though you're just in this little box, it's just like volcanic energy. So it's very beautiful. And you said some huge things today. So with that being said, I'd like to just pass it off to you, and if you could have just some closing statements.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for welcoming me in here. Neil, thank you for hosting, you know, this wonderful space. I can see just from this one call how incredibly valuable it is for everyone. Mick, thank you for, you know, inviting me in, you know, for always taking a stand for me. Kate, thank you for the nice words. I appreciate that a lot because it's been a big work in progress and always will be. And everyone else, thank you for, you know, what you've brought to the call as well. It's been amazing to be here and hear all these fresh perspectives as well, and be in a fresh conversation, which has been felt really energetic and uplifting and mind bending at the same time. And yeah, I just wanted to leave on, there's one line that I've got underlined that God knows how many years ago I underlined this line, but in chapter 6, right, on choosing your level of engagement. And it's in the last paragraph where it says, for a coach to fully turn pro, a lot of time and energy must be invested in achieving mastery level of effectiveness. And that, like, it's really funny looking at that line because that's really what I've done. And for me, and there's a brilliant Steve Chandler audio, which actually I'll dig it out before we end the call to share with you guys. There's a Steve Chandler audio called The Most Powerful Client Attractor. And he talks about three things. Number one, receiving a lot of coaching and good coaching. Number two, delivering a lot of coaching and good coaching. And number three, studying other masters. So he talks about like Byron Katie's and, you know, Alan Watts and all these people, studying their work and bringing it into the work that you do. And for me, like those three elements, just focusing on those has helped me to achieve a level of mastery, which is, you know, I wouldn't say I'm a master, but I'm at a level of mastery that I'm continuing to expand into. So yeah, that I just wanted to leave with that like, if you guys are all on this path, like the real key to all of it and everything we've spoken about today, incidentally, lies in staying on the path and striving for mastery in what you do and how you can help people for whatever your reasons are, whether it's a big mission focused thing or whether it's like a more personal thing like what Emma pointed to. It's like really walking that path of mastery, because with that mastery, the success of the business or whatever it is will come. And for me, it's about, yeah, really walking that line of like I said, receiving a lot of good coaching, and spaces like this can be in that, delivering a lot of coaching and really like dedicating time to that. And then, like I said, studying whoever your person is. Like I've got my Krishnamurti and my Sid Banks and my, you know, various other people, and studying the greats like the Steve Chandlers, the Hardisons, the those kinds of the Byron Katie's, etc., etc. So I just wanted to kind of leave that as a, like I said, a final statement. And as I do that, I'm going to share the audio in the chat so everyone can have a little listen to it. And this is from my private collection. So this is a gift from me to all of you.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's saying my message is too long. Hold on, let me try and do it another way. What's that all about then?
Also, too, if you want to email it to me, I could send it out on the email list if that's something you want to do.
Let me try again. I think I did the wrong thing. That's why.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Gosh, there we go.
Oh, nice. Very cool. Should we listen to it here, or do you guys want to just jump off and listen to it yourselves? How do you want to do it, Alex? What was your kind of?
I would suggest everyone listen to it in your own time. Maybe you could listen to it and then you can talk about, you know, I think you do this weekly, right? Talk about it next week, because it's quite a short audio. It's like 16 minutes. It's not super long. But there's a lot of good stuff in it as well, and so many talking points. So you could probably spend another hour and a half talking about the audio.
Nice. Beautiful. Fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, friends, you want some? Devin, go for it, man.
Very briefly, there are two things that I wanted to share. First of all, thank you everyone for being here and creating this. And I wanted to zoom out and look at this meta, because I think if other people from other industries might be having a hard time understanding how to apply this. And just looking at what happened on this call is it's such a basic thing. And the one phrase the first one that I wanted to share was from Brendan Burchard. He's like Oprah's coach, performance coach. And he says, common sense is not common practice. And these things, like the difference between a pro and an amateur that I see, are just like these little things. Like when you go into a pro studio, it's just like, oh, this feels different. But it is also in the everyday interactions of thanking someone, being polite, holding the door. It's like these little things. It's common sense. It's common sense to get a bunch of people together and talk about your industry, but it's not common practice.
Totally.
Yeah, and then the last little thing that I wanted to share was another quote that kept popping into my head that has really stuck with me. It was from Khalil Gibran, the Prophet, and it was like the one line in that has stuck with me, and it's just work is love made visible.
Yes.
It's like this has been a demonstration of that, and that's kind of what this whole conversation has been about.
Yes.
Just wanted to drop that.
Emotional.
Thank you, guys.
Another successful Hummingbird Society. Thank you so much for pushing through the impossible. See you guys next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.